This is a story from the early church, the Acts of the Apostles. Might have been 900 years old by the time the Vikings were telling it, 500 years old by the time people in the British Isles were telling it. And, well, hopefully it'll be fresh when I tell it for you today. Paul and Silas were in a town called Philippi, and they were in the marketplace there. And while they were in the marketplace, they saw two people who were using a slave girl to make money. They were getting the slave girl to be possessed by a spirit and tell fortunes to passers-by, collecting all the coin in for themselves. Paul and Silas, seeing that the girl was in distress, commanded the demon to come out of her, and she was set free. You'd think that was a good story, wouldn't you? Setting free a slave. However, the slave's owners were making an awful lot of money out of the girl, and they were upset. So they went to the city authorities, and they told the city authorities that Paul and Silas were Jews from far off and were disturbing the way of life in Philippi and, just causing trouble. And the authorities, hearing that and looking at the businessmen, went straight away and summoned Paul and Silas and told them to be beaten and thrown in jail. Paul and Silas were beaten and thrown in jail. But while they were in jail, in the depths of the darkest part, the central part of the jail, in stocks, they started singing and praying. In the middle of the night, there was an earthquake. An earthquake shook the jail building to its foundations, and the locks fell off. The jailer, who was responsible for looking after the prisoners, saw the earthquake, saw all the doors were open, and, well, all he could do was commit suicide, because he would be put to a far worse fate if the prisoners had escaped. So he drew his sword and was about to kill himself, when Paul and Silas spoke to him from the prison and said, hey, chill, it's okay. We're still here. All the other prisoners are still here. Don't worry about it. What? And the jailer would have taken some persuasion to be relaxed after this. But for the rest of the night, and it was probably a long night, they were able to talk to him and to tell him the stories of the good news that had led to the freeing of the slave girl, and the good news that led to freedom in all sorts of different situations and circumstances. Some that stretch your credibility of the laws of physics to its limits, and others which are more like a smile on a morning when you really need one. However, there was still a problem that Paul and Silas were criminals and were arrested, and the authorities had to do something about that. So there was a kind of plan to just let them go quietly. But Paul was, no, we've been arrested, we've been beaten in public, we've been put into a prison, and we're Roman citizens. We should be protected by the law of Rome, not victims of totalitarian regimes. Unless the authorities come here and apologize to us, we're not going anywhere, and we'll continue to be an embarrassment to you. At which point, the authorities had no choice. They came and they set Paul and Silas free, and they went to the house of a lady called Lydia who dyed purple cloth, some of which maybe eventually would end up in Viking lands. And the jailer and all who had come into contact with Paul and Silas had little bits of freedom restored into their lives. So who are the heroes in that story? What do you take away from it that makes you inspired? Where is the good news? Is it that a slave girl was set free? Is it that people who are making money out of imprisoning somebody lost the ability to make money? Is it that the authorities were showing up for siding with the powers that be? The authorities were showing up for siding with the rich and the ruling class and the businessmen? Is it that people listening to the story learn to look beyond what they see first and start to think about the character of the people they're dealing with and not just hearsay and reputation? Is it that the whole jailer's family were set free and became Christians? Is it more? What things would you leave out of the story? What things have I not told the way they should be told? Go find the text, find different versions of the text, look at the story, pray, listen, and hopefully you will find the good news that is held within. Thank you.